I'm Mary Kay, and welcome to Fireside Chat, Episode 2. Tonight, this episode is about refuge. Here comes Greg. Hey.
Hey, folks. Thanks for coming back. And here's my buddy Cameron. He lives about 25 acres on the other side of my property. He's my neighbor. And we were out foraging earlier. Tell us what you got there, Cameron.
Well, I've got some of the basic tools you'll need for gathering firewood. Mainly a chainsaw to cut the bigger stuff. But I also brought a hatchet and a hammer. Normally you'd want an axe to split wood, but when you're actually out there foraging, an axe is kind of heavy.
Yeah, sure.
So I brought these lighter tools because you can line the hatchet right on that piece of wood and works just like an axe.
Do you need something different for fire than you would need to, say, I don't know, build a house?
Yeah. Well, what we have here is we've got oak and pine. Pine is a great wood for starting a fire, mainly because it has pine resin in it, and that's an accelerant. Almost like gasoline, it burns very hot. But the downside to pine is you could have an entire pile here feeding your fire and it'll be gone in an hour and a half. It burns too fast. That's where oak comes in. It's a real dense wood. It makes a hot coal base. It doesn't burn as hot as pine, but it burns nice and slow. A couple of these on your fire and you'll be set for the entire evening.
When you're out foraging in Florida, do you ever find things like willow or hickory or birch trees?
Well, willow and hickory, they grow in Florida, but if you're out, say, in these sandpine forests, you'll mainly find oak or pine. Hickory is a little harder to find.
Isn't it amazing about all the types of wood that there are available to us out here, even in Florida?
Right. It is really amazing how God took into consideration everything that we would need, down to the types of wood that work best for each situation. Literally every little thing.
My father was a blacksmith, and he made this. Do you know what this is?
I mean, I see toast in it, so I'm thinking like an old-fashioned toaster.
That's right. It's a Revolutionary War era toaster.
That is so cool.
So when you're out in the forest and you want toast, you have something to make it on.
Wonderful. Right. Last time we talked, you said that you were living in the woods. Now, does that mean you've actually pitched a tent back in the Florida pines?
No, it actually means that I have a large property and I like being on the edge of the woods, so I had a travel trailer that I moved into. And the main thing was I needed refuge. I needed to get away from the news and the cell phones and the Facebook and the fake news and the real news. I don't know what's real or fake. All I know is that I can't control it myself. So why should I worry about it? I'm not going to worry about it. And finding my own refuge, my own cave, a man cave, if you will, was a way to escape from the reality of what's going on. It's important to listen to local news, obviously, and know what's going on in your community, but don't fret about what's happening. Let our leaders handle it. Let the CDC handle it. And don't get depressed or fearful of it.
Right. I mean, fear definitely destroys. And we talked about that last time, you know. Turn off the fear and turn on the power. And that was so important. And we really talked to you guys about that and how much that means for your well-being to do that. And you isolating yourself and you putting yourself into a small place that you have this big, beautiful home, but you've put yourself in a camper, isolated yourself. Not everyone can do that. But it really reminds me of the story of King David. David was this really cool guy. I mean, strong. He, as a shepherd boy, had killed the lion. He had killed the bear. With God's help, he took down a Philistine giant who was talking smack about God. David's like, no, you're not going to talk about my God that way. And with a slingshot and a smooth stone, he whipped that giant, hit him in the head, killed him, cut his head off, and boom. King David was strong in the Lord. But there was a time when King Saul was going to kill him. He was searching for him to kill him. And so David took refuge in a cave. He actually hid out in a cave and took refuge and hid out in there. But the really neat thing about the cave that David went into, it is actually called Adullam. And Adullam means refuge. But the cave itself was not David's refuge. And guess what was? God. God wanted to be David's refuge in his discouraging time, in a time of fear, in a time of uncertainty, running from King Saul, who had at one time been his very best friend. David was running into a place of refuge, who is God. You may not be able to do that. You may not be able to quarantine, find a camper in the woods, stay home all day, every day. You may have to go out to work. You may be a healthcare worker, and you're right in the midst of this battle with this sickness, and you may be in fear. But I encourage you, don't look at your surroundings as your refuge. Even if you're in your house bottled up and you're in a hazmat suit, that is not your strength. God is your refuge. He's your strength. He's your fortress. Trust him. He loves you. He's got you. David wrote the 23rd Psalm while he was in here. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, while he was in a place of refuge. So don't be afraid. Let the fear go. You got this. We're going to sing a song for you tonight. What's it called, Greg?
Build My Life, House Fires.
Awesome.
Here we go.
Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me into love to those around me. Greg, I think the toast is burning.
Bon appetit.
That's where it fades out, right?
Yeah. Look at that toast.
It's terrible. Only one side.
I think your dad knew what your grandpa knew what he was doing.
That's a wrap.
You should have said, got any butter?
Parquet.